Hey friends, my name is John, but people on the internet call me Narwhal, and I'm in the process of watching through every single superhero movie ever made because I'd never seen any of them and I figured this would make for good content. Now, today we are here to talk about probably the most famous superhero movie of all time, The Dark Knight. Now, to me, someone who's a huge movie fan but never really watched any of the superhero movies, I always heard about this movie. I've heard people talk about it so much, and I also love all of Christopher Nolan's other work, so I was really excited for this trilogy. If you saw my video from 2 days ago, you'd know I really enjoyed Batman Begins, and boy am I excited to talk about The Dark Knight. This was by far my favorite movie I had seen in this challenge up to this point. It's far and above better than any of the other movies I've seen, and I 100% think it lives up to the hype. Now, right off the bat, the first time you ever meet Harvey Dent as a character, he's late for a court hearing, and when he finally shows up, he talks to Rachel for at least 2 minutes while all the other people in the courtroom are just sitting there quietly. And I find it really hard to believe that if you're late for a court hearing, that when you do show up, they're just gonna all sit there and let you have this little expositional conversation with Rachel. And I know that's not an important detail and has no effect on the storyline at all, but to me, that's where my brain goes when I'm watching these movies. Like, what are all the other people in the courtroom doing? They're just sitting there like, as Harvey's just talking to Rachel. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's an observation. Now, a trend that I picked up on this movie that I kind of had noticed building up to this point was that a lot of these superhero movies have two villains, and I find that pretty interesting because, I don't know, when you think of a traditional like superhero story, you think like a hero versus a villain, but I don't really know the reasoning, but there's always like a main villain and a sub-villain. So for example, the main villain's Joker in this movie and the sub-villain is Harvey Dent. Actually, I guess for most of the movie, Harvey Dent isn't necessarily a villain, but more of an antagonist. But it's just interesting to me how some of these companies go with the approach of two villains and there's kind of multiple different storylines, and then other movies, not as common, but sometimes there's movies where it's just one villain, one main storyline, and then the subplot or whatever will be like a love story, but there's no other bad guy or antagonist to worry about. And I don't really know if I have a preference yet, but it seems like this setup where there's the main villain and then another antagonist works pretty well. And another observation I had between this movie and some of the previous movies was that in a movie like Spider-Man, Peter Parker is actively trying to get the citizens of the city to get behind Spider-Man and to like him and to support him and to view him as the good guy. And you see him do that when he's working at the newspaper company and the boss is like talking mad shit, and then he's like, yo, Spider-Man seems like he's doing a bunch of good work. Like, don't you think he's kind of cool? He definitely didn't word it like that, but you know what I mean. And then Bruce Wayne, on the other hand, is totally opposite, where he kind of talks down on Batman and doesn't really support Batman. And at the beginning and even after the movie, I didn't really fully understand the reasoning for that yet. And then the more I talked to people and I read a little bit about it, I now kind of understand that that's the whole point of, like, literally the title of the movie is The Dark Knight. From my understanding, as long as the city of Gotham is safe and Batman is doing his job to protect people and to protect the city, he doesn't really care if people hate him. Like, he's willing to take the fall for the greater good of the city, and as a result, I guess he sort of talk shit about Batman. That's the one thing I didn't really get, is like, he could be the Dark Knight and also be supportive and talk positively about the things that Batman does, but maybe I'm just an idiot and haven't known the character long enough. Maybe there's an explanation for that, but I just thought it was interesting because there's a scene where Bruce Wayne is at dinner, and at this dinner party, he basically does not say anything positive towards Batman, and maybe that's to help conceal his identity and keep it a secret, or maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe you guys can fill me in on it. Like, I get the general idea, but I'd love to know kind of the specific reasoning for why he does that. Now, obviously, if we're going to talk about The Dark Knight, we have to talk about the Joker. Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker is one of the best performances I've ever seen in cinema ever, and I honestly don't think it was overhyped at all. Like, I truly cannot believe that that was an actor, that that was a person playing a role. Like, I felt like I was actually watching the real life Joker. And from what I've read about this movie, Heath Ledger was like in full-blown method actor mode, where he would walk into the scene as the Joker. When the scene ended, he would leave as the Joker, and people like wouldn't see him in between. He wouldn't interact with people as Heath. They said that he only broke character one time on set, and that was when there's a very famous pencil scene. And a couple fun facts about that scene is they quite literally did slam the actor's head into the table. Like, when I first saw it, I just assumed that it was some good editing. I mean, I don't really know the behind the scenes of how they make these movies. I assumed it was CGI somehow, but no, this actor who got his head slammed on the table actually got knocked out 3 different times over the course of 2 days. And one of the days he said his forehead was at least an inch wider because of the swelling. And they actually tried 2 different tables. They tried like a wood one, and then they also tried on like a rubberized padded table. But I guess apparently the wood one was better for how it looked or how it felt to the actors, and so they stuck with that one, and then as a result the guy got knocked out a bunch. So props to that guy for just full committing to the scene. That is dedication. But I read that the only time that he broke character was the first time he slammed the guy's head and knocked him out. He like checked on the guy to make sure he was okay, but as soon as the actor said he was okay, he was back in Joker mode and stayed that way. And now looking back on the film and what happened to Heath Ledger, rest in peace, it makes you really sad. Like, it's beautiful art, and you can really appreciate, at least I can truly appreciate, an actor doing their job at the peak. When you see a role that you can just tell that an actor committed their entire life to, and every single ounce of their being is put into this role, you can tell. Like, there's a few movies in my entire life where I've sat back at the end and said, holy shit, that is perfection. Like, that is the pinnacle of acting. And I really do think Heath Ledger reached that in this movie, but it's just so tragic because at what cost? And there's so many pieces of art that are some of the most influential creations the world has ever seen that were made by people that are mentally ill, unhappy, depressed. And it makes you wonder, like, would that art have ever been made if the people weren't mentally unhealthy? If they were totally good and mentally healthy, that art might have never been made and changed people's lives the way it did. And obviously everyone wishes Heath Ledger was still alive, but it really does make you think, like, some art comes at a very high cost. And I'm not saying that it's good at all, but it's just a very interesting concept because you see that trend a lot with writers, actors, musicians, you name it. But yeah, the Joker absolutely steals the scene every time he's on the screen. I think this movie would still be great even if they had someone else play the Joker, but it would be nowhere near as iconic as it is without Heath Ledger. And something I said in my TikTok review for this movie was that the Joker's humor is underrated, and people commented like thinking I was dumb and like talking shit, and like it was funny because literally his name is the Joker, and when I wrote that and said that in the video, I literally didn't even think of that. Like, his name is the Joker. He tells jokes. He's supposed to be funny. That's what a Joker is. At least I think. Like, I don't even... Does anyone else not even know what, like, in real life, what a Joker is? Like, the historical context behind a Joker? Because the only time I've heard of that is, like, in Batman and, like, horror stories where a Joker is, like, some creepy psychopath. But anyways, yeah, I thought he was really funny, and people were like, yeah, no shit, he was funny. He's the Joker. Anyways, Christian Bale also killed it as Batman once again. I think people will always gravitate towards talking about the Joker because it was amazing and he passed away, and it's iconic. But I stand by what I said. Christian Bale is undoubtedly one of the best actors working right now. Personally, I like his voice. I like the way they change it. I think it's cool. I get why people think it's annoying, though. It's hard to pick a favorite scene, but I think if I had to pick one, it would be when Rachel is in one facility and Harvey Dent is in the other one, and they're on the phone with each other. That was just so heartbreaking and intense, but I didn't even know who I was rooting for, really. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I just had no clue what was going on, but at the same time, I was fully engaged and it was awesome. Now, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit and give you guys some insight. When I'm recording this, I've actually already watched 60 of the movies. I've been way behind schedule on my YouTube stuff and I've been out of town, so I'm trying to grind and catch up now. But I have to say that 60 movies in, this one, The Dark Knight, is still my favorite by a good amount. Like, there's other movies that I'll talk about later that you guys will know that I really enjoyed, but I don't have an urge to rewatch any of them except The Dark Knight. Like, this is the one movie that I just love as a movie. I really don't have anything negative to say about it. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10 on my TikTok review, but looking back on it, I definitely should have gave it a 10 out of 10. I think I was being a little too harsh, and I was hoping that I would keep the door open for something better, but I realized that I don't think anything's going to be better than this. So there you have it. I really love this movie. I think it lives up to the hype, and I'm actually excited to watch it again, which I didn't think I would say. Obviously, millions of people have already talked about this movie. I'm sure you guys have seen it like 100 times, but thank you all so much for listening to my thoughts on it. I really do appreciate you guys watching these videos and sticking along with me, and this is just the most fun I've had creating content in my whole life. I've literally made content since I was a sophomore in high school, and I've been trying to find my way and find my niche and my thing that works with me. Like, I've probably published maybe 1,000 videos over the course of the last 7 years. Like, I've always been putting out content, but I've never really seen anything grow. And this is the first time in my life where I feel like I'm actually good at this. I'm passionate about movies. I've seen a ton of movies. My favorite content creators are all movie people like Carson Runequist, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, 24 Frames of Nick, Thomas Flight. Like, all these guys are doing really cool stuff. And when I look at their videos, I'm like, you know what? I could probably do stuff like that. And I'm just so thankful that it actually blew up on TikTok and that you guys are enjoying it so much. So it just really means a lot to me. So be sure to tell your friends about it. If you ever see a video from here that you like, just link it to someone. I don't know. Just help me out here. And with that being said, thank you all so much. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought of The Dark Knight. Also, if you want more content, be sure to check out my podcast called Peak to Middle School. I plug it at the end of every video because I really like it and I think it's really fun and you should go check it out.
So being addicted to crack is like the same as being addicted to your phone?
No, that's I think that's actually the opposite.
No,
of
I
what
think
they
it's
were
pretty
saying.
similar. I think it's similar.
Because like if I went to the bathroom, if I was a crack addict, I don't know if I could go to the bathroom without crack. I can't go to the bathroom without my phone.
Can you not?
I mean, I can.
Oh, that's a problem, Kyle. You might need to get that checked
Dude,
out.
no, but
Kyle's constipated on the toilet without his phone.
Oh,
I can't go!
Mom! Mom! Bring me my phone!
Slides into the door.
Suddenly just...
as soon as it slides under the door, just it just pours out of his ass. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna go watch The Dark Knight Rises, and I hope it's even half as good as The Dark Knight.